Here now to talk about the transformation of campus culture and learning are UT Austin President Greg Penves, UT Arlington President Vistas Karbari, and UT Rio Grande President Guy Bailey. Gentlemen, thanks for being here. President Bailey, let me start with you. When UT RGV opened its doors in August of 2015, it had 29,000 students, and you were the second largest Hispanic serving institution in the nation. You weren't starting from scratch, but you did have to merge students and staff and faculty, and that is not easy. How do you go about building a new culture in that university setting while really respecting the previous institutions?
Well, that was our biggest challenge, and one we still work on right now. It's an ongoing challenge. One of the things we did, we tried to turn as much over to students as possible. When you get right down to it, it's their university, and so we tried to build traditions, let them build traditions, let them decide things, and so it became something that they built. Same thing with faculty and curriculum. We turned the curriculum over to faculty, and we let them build a new university. There's a sense of loss with the two legacy schools. At the same time, there's a kind of excitement going forward. It's not always smooth sailing, but we try to respect the little things as well. To give you one example, for our UT Brownsville students at graduation, the ringing of a bell was very important. So they had ordered a very large, heavy bell. I think somebody ordered it off eBay or something. And it's true, but it had become a very important part of the graduation ceremony. And so they wanted that incorporated into our well, the Edinburgh students, that's a pretty good idea. So we used it there as well. Now, we have to move it back and forth. It's a logistical nightmare. But we found out now that's actually, the bell was forged in the 1840s and 50s. It's actually quite valuable. But it's become part of the tradition. But the students and faculty themselves forge that. And so you have to let them build that, and they create those traditions.
What are some of the new, different, innovative things happening that maybe weren't happening in Brownsville and Pan Am, especially with regard to educational technology and the way students are learning today?
Well, you just saw a little snippet of one, our student in biomedical science. We have a biomedical science degree that's a competency-based learning degree. If you think about it, most of higher education is based on seat time historically, so you have to have 45 hours of seat time to complete a course. Competency-based education relies on your demonstrating competencies. And so the competency-based degree in biomedical science was the first that we'd done. Neither institution had it. We worried a little bit about it. We didn't know how it turned out to be terrific. Now we have a number of other disciplines who want to do that as well. So we tried to look at how we deliver things, the delivery platforms, and how we conceive of what's success in a course. The other thing we tried to do, and I think it's probably the most innovative thing we've done, we tried to rethink how we use tuition. You know, we know that students, if they go to school full-time, and if they go 4 years, they're likely to graduate. If you don't graduate in 4 years, the likelihood of your graduation goes down every year. We had very low graduation rates. So we reconceived our tuition. For our students, we guarantee you tuition for 4 years, but we cap it at 12 hours. Now what that means is your 15th hour is free. Your 3 hours, 13, 14, 15 are free. In fact, anything beyond that. And what that means, if you go as a full-time student, right, you graduate in 4 years, you've had a semester free. If you're really ambitious, you take 18 hours, you've got a year free. So we've tried to rethink everything that we do in terms of student success. How do we make those students more successful? How do we help them graduate?
Did you come up with that idea?
Well,
that's a good idea.
A lot of people on our campus, it was students, faculty. It was a committee that came up with this idea, and I mean, I'm very proud of them. It's one of the things we're proudest of.
President Karbari, UT Arlington is located really in the heart of the Metroplex, Fort Worth, Dallas area. About midway. Your vision is to see it become a model for 21st century urban research university. What's it going to take for UT Arlington to reach that status, and what's it going to look like?
So let me take you back about 150 years and then take you forward 15 years. So if you go back about 150 or a little bit more than that, 1862 was when we had the Morrill Act, and it brought together the land-grant universities. So the concept or the big ideas of spreading knowledge to the maximum population possible, having access to a world-class education, and having a balance between the liberal arts and the professional sciences. At that time, it was mechanical and agricultural. Today, it's a lot more. Fast forward 15 years from now in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. We are one of the largest metropolitan areas in the country today. The population is about 7.5 million. We're growing at the rate of about 1 person every 3 minutes. So draw your graphs whichever way you like in terms of population dynamics. We're going to hit the 10 million mark of being a mega city somewhere in the next 15 years or so. For us to be a model urban research university, we've got to be centered right in that megacity to be, and we have to be solving the problems that this megacity will have, but solve them before they become problems. So these are problems like let's say urban infrastructure. It's going to be natural resources, it's going to be water, it's going to be health. And so for us to become the model 21st century urban research university, we've got to do a number of things all together. We've got to create access for the widest possible population of the communities that we serve. And that means being a true urban university. We're going to have students who stay on campus. And actually, we have about one of the highest percentages in the state of Texas who stay on campus. But we also have a large percentage who will travel back and forth. It's a working population. And so we've got to have courses that meet the needs not just to the workforce of the present, but to define what the workforce will be of the future. Simultaneously, we've got to be able to build this university that impacts the community that we serve. So for us to truly be a model, it's a 21st century urban research university, we not only have to be an R1 university, which is where we are, we not only have to have great programs, which we already have, which are ranked by US News and World Report, but we have to impact the community we serve such that we truly become the socio-cultural and political and the intellectual hub for this community. When we do that, I'll truly claim that we are the model for the university.
Your on-campus enrollment is about, I guess, a little over 40,000, but the number you tout on your website is your global enrollment, which is approaching 57,000, big number. Includes online education. Do you think we should stop differentiating between on-campus versus online students?
Absolutely, we should have stopped years ago. So if you look at the way we've actually gone forward, years ago we had a textbook that was written by someone because we couldn't have the best faculty at all universities. So the best faculty member wrote a textbook, and 5 years later, everyone basically used it. We went from that to slides, and we went from that to the overhead projector that we saw at the beginning of this session. Online education allows us the ability to reach populations that otherwise would not be able to access the university. We shouldn't think of online education in terms of bringing in more students. It's got to be how do we reach students that otherwise would not have been able to come to the university. And it's not just in terms of distance. It's in terms of people who are working full-time, who need that education. So let me give you an example. At the University of Texas at Arlington, we have one of the largest schools of nursing. It's probably the largest in the state of Texas. In fact, we have about 2,500 students in the state of California. Were we to put a flag down in the state of California, we would become one of the largest colleges of nursing in the state of California. Now, I hope that none of you, let's say, have to go to a hospital. But if you do and you're actually treated by a nurse who has graduated in the last 2 years, consider yourselves very fortunate. That nurse graduated from UTA. 1 out of 2 nurses in the state of Texas today come out with a bachelor's degree from UTA. 1 out of 4 with a master's degree come from UTA. And these are students who pass the national board exam at a rate that is as much or even higher than those who are face-to-face. Now, online education is not just slides. It's not just a talking head. You've got to have the technology that truly allows us to change the way students are learning. But when you do that, it actually can become as good as or better than what we do in class. And with that, we should be counting all these numbers in terms of the total population that we serve, not just those that we see every day, because we're actually seeing them, but in the digital world.
President Fenves, let me ask you about Project 2021, which you launched last year. Tell us about that and what you hope it will achieve here at UT Austin.
Well, at the University of Texas at Austin, we have a record going back decades of innovation in undergraduate education. We're a very large undergraduate institution. We have nearly 40,000 undergraduate students here on the campus. But the needs of students, the needs of society, the use of technology is constantly changing. But one new aspect that I think is very important is when we look at a top-tier research university like UT, is what is the role of a research university in undergraduate education? Now, we've typically thought about our dual mission of education and research, but they've not been totally linked together very well. And we just, I think, have assumed and probably been a little complacent that students get a great undergraduate education at a research university because, well, we have some of the best faculty in the world. They're leaders in their discipline. They're defining new knowledge. So, of course, undergraduate students are going to get a good education. But that's not always the case. And this is what we're really fundamentally focusing on in Project 2021, is how do we increase the value proposition of residential undergraduate education, truly believe having students here on campus for an intense educational experience, how to improve the residential undergraduate education at a research university. And so Project 2021 has a number of elements to it. One is we're all working on how to use technology to improve learning outcomes, and there's lots of evidence, and it's very evidence-based approaches that we're using here, and certainly doing that. But the second major initiative of Project 2021 is sometimes we think about how do we bring the real world into the educational experience, because that is a crucial part of education. And that's actually what research is how do you bring those experiences in. So let me just give you one example. We have many, many examples we're working on. So I go to the Capitol a lot, not surprising this time of the year, odd-numbered year. And I love going to the state Capitol, not necessarily for the work that needs to be done there, but because we have lots and lots of students doing internships there. Well, many of our students are government majors, Plan 2 majors, we have science majors, we have engineering majors that are learning about public policy, they're learning about important social and political issues, and that is part of their education. And these students come back from internships much more motivated to learn the fundamentals, whether that's in the liberal arts or in the sciences. They are much more driven. They're much more career-oriented when they come back with that internship experience. So how do we use internships and other types of experiential learning and integrate that into the undergraduate education? If you just give me 1 minute, I'll want to talk about a very important aspect of that we're working here at UT right next door, and that's the new Dell Medical School. Now, the Dell Medical School, we've got to be careful about looking at professional medical education, comparing it to undergraduate education. But at the Dell Medical School, the students don't take classes. There are no semester credit hours. The entire curriculum over 4 years is in blocks, sometimes 2 weeks, up to, I think, 16-week blocks. Very few lectures. Experiential learning is completely integrated into the basic sciences. And so that's an incredible motivational example. Now, we've got to be careful. Classes of 50 medical students, some of the best students in the country, compared with classes of 8,000 students. But those are the kind of things that we can do with new ways of thinking. And the name Project 2021 comes from the fact I don't like long-term things. So in 5 years, we'd like to be able to get about half of our degree programs, we have 160 degree programs at UT Austin, half of our degree programs undergoing a very comprehensive modernization along these lines.
In the few minutes that we have left, kind kind of like to ask you to break out your crystal balls and maybe just comment on what you think is going to be the biggest change as we go forward in education within the system at your institutions.
Well,
Bailey?
I think one that President Fenves just alluded to, a focus not on seat time, but on experiential learning, developing competencies. This really is, I think, where we'll be going. What he said, I think, can apply generally across the institution. So, yeah, competency rather than seat time.
President Carbari?
Changing the way we look at education and changing the way we look at how we teach. Right now we look at education in terms of 4 years of the bachelor's degree or maybe 2 more of the master's and a PhD. And then we talk about professional and continuing ed. We've talked about lifelong learning, but we've never really practiced it. I think in the future you're going to see a lot more of that, where it becomes a true continuum and it becomes individualized. We have the technology, we have the faculty who make that possible. If we can truly do that, I think that's what you're going to see, at least at UTA.
President Fenves?
Well, especially at Austin, what we're looking at is how do we prepare our students for a lifetime career, being able to contribute to society, contribute to their communities, support their families. And the dynamics of our economy and of our society are so rapidly changing. We have a former dean, some of you know Rod Hart, and he had a great way, in a very Rod Hart way, of describing our job at the University of Texas at Austin is to prepare students for their third job, and that job doesn't exist yet. Because that's what we're going to have to be preparing our students to be successful. And we have a very short time to do it. Whether it's 4 years or 5 years or 6 years, depending on advanced education. How does that education prepare a student, not just to be a lifelong learner, hopefully everybody's taking the time to learn something, but to be a lifetime leader to lead those innovations, because that's what a top-ranked university should be producing.
Well said. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.